Welcome to RV Retirement Redesign, where we are redesigning and redefining. We're redesigning our retirement and redefining RV living, not because we want a cheap way to survive, but because we want to thrive in this new season of life on our terms. Welcome to RV Retirement Redesign YouTube channel. Primarily on this channel, my goal is to share with you how to make the very best home you can have in your RV. But today I'm going to take a little bit different of a turn. And today I really want to talk about something that's been on my heart, that has been a concern, that is something I really didn't expect in my first 2 years of living in an RV. And that is encountering the stigma of living full-time in an RV. I have seen this come from my own family, and it was heartbreaking. I've had it come from the municipality, the city that we live in, and I didn't expect that. And I also see it in our own RV community. So today, let's put the elephant on the table, and let's talk about that stigma of full-time RV living. In 2018, there was an article that was written in RIVA, I'll put the link below, where it talked about the number of seniors, so just the senior community that is living in an RV, and it was 780,000. Now, if you think about the time from 2018 to the current year, and if you think about all of the RVers that are out there, I don't have the statistics now, for full-time RVers that have families, that are singles, that are young couples, young adults. And if you think about the number and the escalation of the desire to live full-time in an RV in year 2021, in which we're living right now, the number has just exploded. Now, in all of those people, everyone has their own story, their own reason why they are living in an RV. Some of it is because of finances. They're having a really hard time. Things are not easy in the homeowners and renters world right now. Some of it is a lack of jobs or other stories of that type. Now, some of it, though, has nothing to do with finances. Bob and I both came from professional backgrounds. We had a 6-figure income. We had a large home. And our season changed. Our needs changed. Our way of life and our desire changed. And that's how we found ourselves in a full-time RV situation. Now, it wasn't because of finances. It was because of fishing. My husband is a fishing guide in the mountains of Colorado, and he wanted to live closer to his lakes. He was having to travel quite a bit, and this really cut down on his amount of travel, on his amount of gas he had to pay, pulling a boat, every day through the summers pretty much. And so it wasn't about fishing, it was about a quality of life. Now, for us, our decision also was not to travel. I traveled as a child. My dad was in the Air Force. I traveled in my career. I was out of the home sometimes up to 4 months out of the year traveling. And so I got to see the world, and I don't feel like I need to see it now. I'm happy to be stationary. But there's others who are just now getting to explore the United States and all it has to offer, and other countries as well, in an RV. Everybody has their own story, and yet there seems to be a lot of assumptions about people who live in RVs. So today I'm going to share with you the 3 types of stigma that I've personally experienced, and let's get the conversation going. I do want to hear the kind of stigma that you have experienced, or your response, your rebuttal to some of the things that I'm going to share. Now, the first time I really encountered this was right when we moved in. We took quite a while to find the right RV for ourselves. We took time to find the right place to put it. Because of what is available, we ended up in a really nice RV park in the mountains close to where Bob's fishing lakes are. And we're very, very happy here. It's a nice park. They do have a lot of rules and regulations, which I'm fine with because it does keep it very aesthetically pleasing. They care about what it looks like. They have rules and regulations when it comes to pets, to what you can put outside, what you can attach or not attach to your RV, and it works well for us. Now, what I didn't expect was some of the assumptions that others might have about people who live in RV parks. So, one of the things I was really looking forward to was having my grandkids come and visit. I have grandkids that are 7, 9, and 11, and they would love to be up here. And there's a lot that our particular area offers because it is a tourist area. What I didn't expect was the perception, the beliefs, the assumptions that my son and his wife have about people who live in RV parks. And they do believe that there are pedophiles that live in parks. And you know what? There might be. But there's also pedophiles that live in neighborhoods. And you don't always know who they are. I think the best situation here is you have to be protective. You have to be vigilant in watching your children, and you can call and look at police reports. You can also look at statistics that are on the web and locations. There are reports that give you that information. You have to be diligent. I don't care where you live. There are really nice places to live in bricks and mortar homes, and there are really nice places to live where RVs are. However, when you have family members that have assumptions and beliefs, you can't change their mind. You have to respect that. And while it was crushing to me not to be able to have my grandkids come and visit us, it's what I have to live with. And I'm hoping that someday that'll change. But in the first 2 years, it hasn't. The second type of stigma that I encountered was with our local city and municipality. There was a 1970s ordinance that basically said that anyone who stays in an RV, or where the location of an RV is a recreational vehicle, that it could only be there for 180 days. After that time, the vehicle has to move, go somewhere else. And that has been going on since 1970. For some reason, and I really haven't found out exactly why, that ordinance was used to encourage the city council to start enforcing it. You know, there are still ordinances out there about where you can hitch your horse on a sidewalk or in front of buildings. And while those are no longer applicable, 1970s laws about RVs, in my opinion, are no longer applicable either. So in this case, the argument that was being brought to the local community, city council, was that it would, if you allowed RVs, particularly in parks, to stay longer than 180 days, they would turn into mobile home parks. And the argument against that is, well, first of all, there's not enough room, space in any one given lot for a mobile home to survive or to fit on RV park properties. The second thing is the real issue, or part of the issue behind this, was there are 1 or 2 parks here in our area, that mobile home parks, that are really, well, they weren't taken care of. You know what I'm talking about. And it would be, in reality, what a lot of people term as trailer trash. And some of the residents in our community felt like if you allowed people who live in RVs to exist in an RV park for longer than 180 days, it would turn into trailer trash. Really, that's what their concern was. And rather than instill some rules and regulations regarding how park managers and park owners enforce the responsibility of keeping a park from becoming trailer trash, they just wanted to throw everybody out, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And so this went on for quite a while. It was written up in several different articles across the United States. Even RIVA was brought into it. And the outcome, several months later, was that one of the things I respect about our city council is they're not going to tell people how to run their businesses. So the parks are responsible for following certain responsibilities and rules, regulations, and ordinances, but how they do that is their business. And if they want to stay in business, they do need to keep that up. Now, again, in comparison and in fairness, if you live in a bricks and mortar home, then there are rules and regulations that you should follow as well. There are covenants in certain communities, and you're supposed to follow those. And so there's kind of a quid pro quo there, if you will, that could be followed, could be assumed. And that's part of my conversation. Just because a person lives in a certain type of home, we shouldn't be making assumptions about their characteristics, their personality, who they are, where they come from. Our cities and our states all have different guidelines and rules and regulations and laws regarding having your own property and putting an RV on it and living there. And part of that is too because they don't want the trailer trash, the fire danger, other safety issues that come with people who don't take care of their property. And in particular, the rules from 1970s, how RVs were constructed back then to today, is very different. And the same liabilities that perhaps would not allow people to live full time as easily, as comfortably, as safely in 1970 are not the same issues that we deal with today. So one part of the conversation is that we as full-time RVers need to be educating the community about the different styles and stories that people have for living in RVs, as well as the safety of them. And part of that is making sure that our story, our visual story of living in RVs is also something that we want perpetuated. And this leads me to the third type of stigma that full-time RVers sometimes experience. And unfortunately, it's from our own community. There are stationary full-time RVers who look at mobile RVers, full-time RVers, as those that are nomads. They don't have a way of making a living in one place, and so they're having to move from place to follow jobs. And the media perpetuates that. There's movies out now. There are images on the news of people who are down on their luck and living in old, rundown RVs along sidewalks and don't have any place to go. And that might be some people's story, but it's not the story of the industry, of everybody out there. I love watching some of the YouTube videos of people who are working on the road, who have very enriched lives, who are traveling and showing their children the whole United States. And they do this in a way that is very indicative. If they had lived in a brick and mortar home, they just are moving their home from place to place. Again, a different story, and one that needs to be respected. On the other hand, we have mobile full-time RVers too that perpetuate stationary RVers as people who are down on their luck. They don't have any place to go. In fact, we even see stories that they write about on their website. And I quote one RV website: "If you're a traveling RVer and have been to an RV park lately, you've probably noticed those RVs who are cementing themselves to their campsites in RV parks. There's the traditional wood deck with a million pieces of mismatched camping furniture, grills, and plastic bins adorning the exterior of the perimeter." Well, I took offense at that when I read it. And yes, I have a deck, very well decorated. Yes, I have outdoor furniture. It's all coordinated. That's important to me. Have I got plastic bins and flower pots everywhere? No. Do I have some storage areas that are plastic? Yes. Again, coordinated with my outside furniture in a very aesthetically pleasing way. So sometimes the way that we as full-time RVers in our general community are communicating about each other perpetuates this whole people who live in RVs are nothing but trailer trash. And I think that needs to stop. We want our cities and our municipalities to embrace the idea of allowing more parks. During COVID and now this season after COVID, people are finding it very difficult to find a place to stay in their RV, whether that's a weekend warrior or a full-time RVer. And the arguments that is being used against us are perpetuated by our own community. So let's start encouraging each other to take care of our RVs, to take care of the land around our RV, whether we're boondocking, whether we're traveling to a park, or whether we're living full-time in a park. So I'm inviting you to be a part of this conversation. Tell me what you think. Let's get the conversation really starting. Let's encourage each other to do the very best we can. And that's going to be all different levels. Not everybody can afford to have a brand new vehicle, to have a brand new RV. Not everybody can afford to even take an older one and retrofit it. So let's be understanding. Let's be communicative. Let's be encouraging. And let's stick together, because this is a great way to live. I love being a full-time RVer, and I know you do too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. We hope you enjoyed today's video and that you got a couple good ideas. If you liked it, would you please do us the favor of liking and subscribing? Thanks. Until next time, bye-bye.